the last thing I ever want the Yeah to do is cool it down. I want that high energy craziness from their earlier days. But, surprise, surprise, a restrained record comes out, and I think it's brilliant. This is Not Every Single. I'm Joe.
And I'm Stephanie.
We're going to talk about Cool It Down, the new record from Yeah Yeahs that came out like last week.
Yeah, recently. We talked about the single. Did we just talk about Burning?
Yeah, I've changed my thoughts on Burning. I might even just take that video down because no one watched it anyway. And these can be our sort of more, our better thoughts on Burning.
Well, I still stand by like my initial reaction to it. And I think within the context of the album, it becomes a totally different song. And that's kind of what we were hoping.
It really does. It totally changes it. Mm-hmm. I kind of wish it wasn't the single, but I also don't know what would be the better second single.
Well, so a lot of the conversation I've seen around this is just that Wolf and Fleas are both singles. And so I don't know which, first, but I really think those were better introductions. They're not super indicative of the album as a whole, but it like eases you in more, I think, to what they're doing.
I mean, I'll say this. There's not a lot to pick from.
It's very short. I think this should have been an EP, honestly. I think Different Today should be cut.
Yeah.
And Mars is it like just so it could be over half an hour? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, she does talk in that other song as well, so it kind of links it together. I liked ending on Mars. I liked that it was sort of more of an art piece, but maybe it should have been an EP. Doesn't matter in the time of streaming. I mean, look at those 9 Inch Nails EPs from a couple years ago, and like Bad Witch comes out. It's like, is it an EP? Is it an album? Why is it called an album? And then Trent coming out and being like, I called it an album so that it shows up first on Spotify when the EPs don't.
Yeah.
So that could be the reason.
Because
Who
the EPs
knows?
come up as singles, which is like ridiculous.
It's
so
totally buried.
Yeah. And doesn't make sense because why is an EP a single? It's not.
Yeah,
it's a mini album.
Yeah.
People will say mini album now. Like literally people like, I'm putting out a mini album.
That maybe would have been better to say. There's that really, really good Sleigh Bells album called Kid Khrushchev, and it's called a mini record. And I think it's about 7 or 8.
Yeah.
King of Limbs was another controversial one. It coming out after such a long wait, after In Rainbows. Then it comes out and it's 8 songs, and it causes this whole theory that there's a King of Limbs Part 2 coming. But it's grown on me, and particularly the shortness of it has grown on me as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it for what it basically, if this is what we get, if there's already like 2 things I want to cut off this personally, which are really the only 2 things, I don't really want to see anything longer from them. If this is what they have, then let's do this, and then maybe they can move on to the next thing. I don't want them like throwing in filler to make it a 45-minute album.
Agreed. Yeah, I'd much rather have a smaller body of work, and then if that's their ramp up into putting out a more meaty record, then great. Mm-hmm. That's totally fine. If there's a full length next year or something. Now, I'm not thinking that will happen because this band's notorious for kind of disappearing for a long time. This was almost a decade absence.
Yeah. And it's funny too because my thoughts on this album really are as if they kind of like acted as if Mosquito never existed, which I think is the correct decision.
Yeah, I'm curious if anyone's out there that really digs Mosquito. Can you tell me why? I'd be interested to know. And maybe as I take this in more, maybe I'll attempt to revisit it. I don't know.
I've never listened to the whole thing, so I probably should. But yeah, really, I felt like listening to this, it's like the softer parts of It's Blitz. I love It's Blitz. It's such a brilliant album. And it's kind of like they were like, okay, so hysteric, what did I say? Hysteric
Skeletons.
skeleton me
Yeah.
and soft scene.
Soft shock.
Soft shock.
Yeah.
Soft scene is the
Autolux.
Autolux. Yeah. So those songs were kind of like plucked out, and then that idea was taken farther.
Yeah, you sprinkle in a little Mosquito, that song Under the Earth, and maybe a little bit of Sacrilege. You mix it into the softer, prettier pad synth heavy parts of It's Blitz, and yeah, I think you got and that last ingredient that's in there is some major like reflection and maturity.
Yeah.
And this record makes me think.
Yeah, it's a really atmospheric record too. So I have to say that like the first time I listened to this album, I'd listened to both singles multiple times. And I was kind of like not that into Burning, and then Spitting Off the Edge of the World. I was like, yeah, sure, fine. So we just moved to the Jersey Shore. We're in a beach town. We're renting a beach house for the off season. We got hit by a storm for like 4 days as soon as we got here. And so the first day that the sun came out
It was gorgeous.
was beautiful. We're within walking distance of the boardwalk and this beautiful, beautiful beach. And I hadn't been working out because we'd been moving and all this stuff. So I got my phone and my like earbuds. I got new like wireless earbuds and get down on the boardwalk, walk onto it, hit play on this album, and Spitting Off the Edge of the World comes in, and I'm running down the boardwalk with that beautiful sparkling ocean.
Atlantic Ocean, the sun.
It was like
a new era for
freaking
us.
ideal thing to listen to at that moment.
It's really incredible how much better these singles shine in the context of the album. Something like Spitting, it's kind of hard to take in just by itself without the context of what's to come and really make a judgment on. And it makes me wonder, this is maybe not the best promotion tactic, but just a drop in it.
I know, just putting this out, I think for me, because I went in with neutrally thinking like I'm gonna give this a chance, even though the singles are a little underwhelming to me, and it ended up being great. But I think if I knew nothing about this album and that was like my first experience of it, it would have been totally different.
Yeah, I totally agree. I kind of wish it just came out and was this amazing piece of music and sort of an announcement that, hey, we're back and we're doing this. I want to get into some specifics. So Spitting Off the Edge of the World, I always say Earth because they have that song Under the Earth.
Yeah.
Spitting Off the Edge of the World, I wrote down saturation. It is just saturated in reverb, in pads. Nothing's really a distinguished just note. Everything's lush and full, and it just sounds like there's 1,000 tracks going on of anything, just adding to this bigness.
Yeah, Karen O is notorious for like she just doesn't want to rehash. And so this is the perfect example of, like I said before, just taking things they've done and moving forward with it. Like I went back and listened to a couple It Splits things, and even the mixing was like very different on the album.
This is now if you watch this channel, you know that I have a little bit of I don't like the word warmth. I said warm. It's not warm. Warm. It's an overused phrase in music. This record is warm, though. It is like, you can tell it was like recorded to tape probably or something like that. And I can hear like the classic spring reverb in his amps. Like everything sounds warm and lush. And the cutoff ending, it's terrific. It's like big and huge and stop, next thing.
Yeah.
That's effective.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it's a different thing and it's the same band all at once.
It does sound like them, which is what I was worried about when I heard those singles originally. And then you take in this record and it's like, yeah, this is them. It feels like them. Love
Love Bomb.
Love Bomb. I couldn't read my own handwriting. I kind of write.
You should. Mine's just as bad.
Yeah, I'd like think faster than I write, so it's just scribbly. Love Bomb. Another mood setter is what I wrote. So this was the only thing I found kind of odd about the pacing is I felt like when Spitting ends, I'm kind of ready for the rest of the record, and like that was a mood setter. And then this one's like another mood setter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is like a 5-minute song, and it didn't pay off for me fully.
I think maybe if you just tweak the order, just tweak the order a little bit, because I do really like it. It's just like it sounds like two openers together, which is weird. Did you feel like that? Someone agree with me.
I totally get what you're saying too, because then it's like then there's a change when it goes into Wolf.
Yeah, which hey, I wrote down M83 or M83, whatever. You got like synths that sound like that big Midnight City album. I love the melody and everything's really drawn out. I circled drawn out, and I'm talking about the vocal. There's no snappy, like shouty, quick words. Everything is really drawn out, and she really takes her time, whether it's a chorus or a bridge or anything. It's all really focused and has room to breathe.
Let's see if I had any notes.
On Wolf?
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say I like the strings on this better than...
It made me like Burning more.
Yeah.
Because hearing, okay, these are kind of what the strings are doing on this album. That was my huge complaint about Burning. It's like, man, like Nick Zinner, he's this amazing guitarist. Like, he makes guitars sound like anything. Why not make a guitar sound like those strings or something? And then you hear it in Wolf, I'm like, no, I get it. Like, I kind of get what the strings are accomplishing.
Yeah. I still kind of wish Burning was doing something different with the strings, but I think this is a good example of how they can utilize it like perfectly.
Yeah. I did like the string usage here better. And I like these big, heavy 808s in that song, which is something I haven't really heard from them. This big, just like, it's like a lot of things are distorted in this album, but in a way that they haven't used before. You know, their early stuff, it's fuzz guitar. He's using a rat pedal. Her vocals are all blown out, whether it's from vocal distortion or just like actually crappy equipment, you know, like something like the Master EP. It's all just blown out. And it just sort of sounds that way because that's what they had to work with.
Yeah, it's, you know, they're a perfect example of a band who's progressed, you know, with more and less success with different projects, but they started out like very dirty and just like in the best possible way.
Yeah, and I'll always love that early stuff. But
and
this
now,
is
like you look at it splits in this, and it just feels like,
yeah,
I don't know.
It's like ethereal maturity, but it's still them. Ethereal is something I did write down. It's big, it's lush, it's ethereal. But yeah, it does have like, you know, Fleas has that deep, fuzzy bass. There is distortion throughout this record. And again, it was something I was worried about with the singles. But no, it's there. It's just used in a very different way, and it's all very layered and kind of taken a back seat to the big prettiness.
Yeah. I mean, Wolf and Fleas, that's a good double punch on the album. But then again, going back to what we were saying, should they maybe have been separated?
Possibly. I would definitely change the order here. I would keep Spitting first, and I would keep Mars last, and I would just like rearrange it a little bit in the middle. I have really one complaint, which is Blacktop. The beat, is that not just from Tennis Court by Lorde?
It's pretty, yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how similar it is, but it definitely seems like it.
Kind of seems like it, but it led me to kind of a big realization about this album and thinking about this band, and especially dipping back into their early demos, which are attached to the deluxe edition of Fever to Tell on Spotify, which is, like, it all makes sense full circle. This album is elevated early demos of theirs. Now, I'm not saying it's the exact same songs that they've taken. I just mean, like, go listen to their early demos when it was just like Nick Zinner and a drum machine, and things were blown out with some pretty layers and her vocals. This is totally that record. Like, if they had everything at their disposal now and gone through life and all this stuff, like, yeah, this is exactly what they would make. It's like an elevated version of those early demos.
Yeah, the thing is, like, Mosquito felt like an argument between them, and this feels like a peacemaking, I guess, between what they both want the band to be.
Yeah. The only other thing I'd say is maybe Brian Chase is a bit underused on the record, but that also is a skill set. I think he knows to step back here. Was he going to do his big splashy jazzy jazz punk drums over it? Like, I guess that wouldn't fit, but I do miss his presence more.
Yeah. I like this album so much more than I thought I would, and I do really like it. If you look at all their albums, I still think it's low for me, but because there's such a high bar with...
Yeah, because you like Show Your Bones a lot more than me.
I love Show Your Bones, and yeah, that's not really your thing.
Not my top.
Yeah, but I think like It's Blitz is really high up there for me.
Number 2 for me.
And Is.
Oh, is so good. If anyone hasn't heard the Is EP, it's
Rockers
incredible.
to Swallow is like basically my favorite song of theirs.
Yeah, I mean, it might just be one of my favorite songs.
Yeah, of all time.
That's a great EP. We'll leave you on that recommendation. And I just need to throw this out there because I bring it up and spread the word any chance I get. This is not every single. I'm Joe.
And I'm Stephanie.
And the note is that the cover of Mosquito is the worst album cover of all time. Bye. Was that too mean?
No.
It felt a little mean to end it on that.
Well, no, it's fine.
Okay. Bye.